Republican lawmakers say they want to replace ousted Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. Ohio's Jim Jordan, the Judiciary Committee chair, was the first to officially throw his hat in the ring, announcing his campaign on Wednesday. Jordan, who vowed to reduce spending, quickly gained the support of several Republican lawmakers, including Florida's Matt Gaetz, who spearheaded the removal of McCarthy. Now, also on Wednesday, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise announced he, too, is running for House Speaker. Scalise became a national figure in 2017 after surviving an assassination attempt during a congressional baseball practice in Alexandria, Virginia. Republicans have announced they will be holding a candidate forum for Speaker next Tuesday with a vote the next day. For the Democrats' role in removing Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, House Republicans have exacted revenge on their colleagues from across the aisle for voting with 8 Republican lawmakers. In the hours following Tuesday's vote, House Speaker Pro Tem Matthew Patrick McHenry, McCarthy loyalist, kicked former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi out of her private office in the U.S. Capitol. The second-ranking member of the House Democrat leadership, Representative Steny Hoyer, was also asked to vacate his hideaway office. The two offices were courtesies extended by House Republican leadership. Both still have their offices in the congressional office buildings. The revenge came as McCarthy targeted Pelosi for failing to hold up her agreement to back him in case the motion to vacate was used against him. Tim.
Mike, with no Speaker of the House, there is a cloud of uncertainty over the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. The shakeup threatens to undermine the short-term legal standings of the probe into Biden's alleged involvement in his family's business dealings. Without a floor vote to affirm the inquiry, it is now said to sit on shaky legal ground. A source close to Jim Jordan told the New York Post that it would be full speed ahead if the Ohio Republican became Speaker. At last report, the other announced candidate, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, has not commented publicly about the inquiry. Greg?
Well, the debts aren't actually canceled, but instead repaid by someone other than the borrower, in this case, the U.S. taxpayer, many of whom have already paid off their own student loans, according to the Western Journal. Right now, let's talk with the president of Counterpoint Institute for Policy Research and Education, Dr. Shea Bradley Farrell. Welcome to Victory.
Thanks so much, Greg. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Joe Biden, he's doing it again. He's transferring more student debt to taxpayers, even though the Supreme Court rejected his doing so earlier this year. Why does he continue to push this agenda?
Greg, it's very simple. He's trying to buy votes. His poll ratings have been in the toilet for quite a while. We're coming up against a new election soon, and that's simply what it is. And we know that he has no regard for the rule of law. I've personally been down to his border and seen what his open border policies have done against the rule of law in this country. And just remember, $9 billion for a relatively small place, a part of society, is going to be placed on the backs of middle-income Americans, some of whom chose not to go to college.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the wall in just a minute, but let's talk about Chip Roy. He called Ukraine spending to be brought to a halt. Listen to the reasons.
And we need to make sure that not $1 is going to Ukraine, not $1 is going to Ukraine, unless we do our job to secure the border first, and unless we pay for anything we do, and unless we get appropriations done.
You say there's more to U.S. funding for Ukraine than meets the eye. Tell us more.
There's much more. The State Department has called this the largest assistance since the Marshall Plan right after World War II, when we helped reconstruct Europe. Now, the $114 billion that have been promised to Ukraine, we've sent 70 of it. That number does not include the amount of funds that have been reprogrammed, transferred from one program over to the Ukraine program. Doesn't include that. Congress doesn't know what the number is. It doesn't include the Presidential Drawdown Authority funds, where Biden can sign away weapons, funds, resources at the stroke of a pen. Now, we saw a few months ago that there was a so-called $6.2 billion accounting error when he did that. You know, and if you also look at the other end over on Ukraine, if you read the State Department reports as I do, you realize that Ukraine does not have a system in place either to account for all the money that we are sending them. So Congress, like I said, J.D. Vance has openly said they don't know all the money we've sent to Ukraine, and neither does Ukraine.
Wow. That's a little frightening. Let's talk about the border now. Alejandro Mayorkas says that 20 miles of border wall must be built immediately because of mass illegal entries. But his DHS has also begun new lawful pathway measures to fly tens of thousands of illegal immigrants directly from their countries to cities in the United States. Can you sort these bipolar actions out for us?
You have to be a little bit crazy to understand it, but it's simply, again, Biden is trying to buy votes because he could have done this 2 years ago. I was actually down on the border in Arizona watching them pull away the equipment and the resources that were down there to build Trump's wall. So if he really wanted to do that, he could have kept that going. The other thing is, what you just talked about, this Border Patrol app that we have, it has actually allowed hundreds of thousands of immigrants to fly over our borders into the interior of the U.S., where they're met by a Border Patrol agent and released into the interior. Now, here's the kicker, Greg. Center for Immigration Studies did a report on it, and 689 people out of 225,000 were told that they couldn't come. Now, there's supposed to be this great vetting system. I think far less than 1% of the illegal people coming in. That's not a great vetting system at all.
Yeah, not very much. It's more like a colander, all the things going through.
Absolutely.
Where can we find out more about you and your work, Dr. Shea?
Go to our website, counterpointinstitute.org. Sign up for our newsletter. Only comes out once or twice a month. Follow us on social media at Counterpoint DC and at Counterpoint Institute. Love to hear from you.
Okay. See you in just a moment.